The North Sea is not a hunting ground tonight. It is a graveyard. In the pitch-black, freezing darkness of the Orkneys, Lieutenant Commander Günther Prien stands exposed on the conning tower of U-47. He is attempting the impossible, threading a 65-meter steel needle through a gap barely wide enough for a fishing trawler. Below him, the diesel engines rumble at a dangerously low RPM. To his port side, the rusted hulk of a sunken British blockship looms out of the mist like a jagged ghost. The current here is a riptide, threatening to smash the U-boat against the rocks. Suddenly, a sickening screech vibrates through the hull. U-47 has snagged a blockship cable. The boat shudders. For 10 agonizing seconds, the mission and 40 lives hangs on the integrity of a single rudder cable. Then, silence. The boat slips free. The heavy chop of the open sea vanishes, replaced by the eerie, glass-like calm of a protected harbor. Prien lowers his binoculars. He is no longer at sea. He is inside the beating heart of the Royal Navy. To understand the sheer audacity of this moment, you must understand the geography of fear. Scapa Flow is not merely a harbor. It is the holy of holies for the British Royal Navy. Located in the desolate Orkney Islands north of Scotland, it is a natural fortress, shielded by ring of islands and violent, unpredictable tides that can push a vessel onto the rocks at 10 knots. Since the First World War, the Admiralty believed it to be impregnable. The matchup is laughable on paper. In one corner, the Royal Navy, the undisputed masters of the sea, resting their massive battleships, including the 29,000-ton HMS Royal Oak behind nets, sunken blockships, and searchlights. In the other corner, the Kriegsmarine's U-boat arm, a force still in its infancy, dismissed by many traditionalists even within the German high command. Admiral Dönitz, the mastermind of the U-boat fleet, needed a strike that would shake the world. He didn't just want to sink a ship. He wanted to pierce the armor of British invincibility. He conceived Special Operation P. It required a commander with ice in his veins and a surgeon's touch on the helm. He chose Günther Prien, 31 years old, aggressive, calculating. Prien was given the command of U-47, a Type 7B U-boat. She is a reliable workhorse, but fragile. Her pressure hull is less than an inch of steel. Against the 15-inch guns of a Revenge-class battleship, she is nothing more than an eggshell. The intel provided by the Luftwaffe and stealthy reconnaissance revealed a flaw in the defenses. Kirk Sound. The currents were treacherous, and the blockship's sunken vessels meant to plug the gap were spaced just widely enough apart. It was a suicide mission in all but name. If Prien was detected, there would be no escape. The depth of the harbor was too shallow for a deep dive. They would be trapped in a shooting gallery. 27 hours. The interior of U-47 is silent, save for the hum of the electric motors. Prien is topside, binoculars pressed to his eyes. The adrenaline of the breakthrough is faded, replaced by a cold, predatory focus. But as he scans the vast anchorage of Scapa Flow, his heart sinks. The main fleet, the home fleet, is gone. The anchorage is largely empty. Had the intelligence been wrong? Had they risked everything for nothing? Prien orders the helm to starboard, sweeping north towards the coast. Then, against the jagged backdrop of the shore, he spots them, shadows against the land. Two massive shapes. One is clearly a battleship of the Revenge class. It is the HMS Royal Oak. Behind her lies a second vessel, identified by Prien as the battlecruiser Repulse, though later records would suggest it was likely the seaplane tender Pegasus. It doesn't matter. The target is locked. 2-1 to 4. Stand by for surface attack. Down in the bow torpedo room, the crew moves with practiced, silent urgency. They are shirtless, sweating despite the northern chill, greasing the steel eels that will deliver death. The distance is 4,000 yards. Perfect visibility. The northern lights are blazing overhead, a beautiful, terrifying spotlight that threatens to expose the gray wolf on the surface. Prien calculates the torpedo solution. Speed, 0. Angle on bow, 90 degrees. It is a firing solution submariners dream of. Los! Fire! 0058 hours. 3 G7E electric torpedoes leave the tubes. A hiss of compressed air, a slight shudder of the hull, and then the waiting. The runtime is calculated at 3 minutes. On the bridge, Prien counts the seconds. 1 minute. 2 minutes. The crew holds their breath, listening for the thunderclap. 3 minutes pass. Nothing. Then, a muted, dull thud. One torpedo has struck the Royal Oak's bow, severing the starboard anchor chain.
The other 2? Failures. Likely magnetic pistol malfunctions, a plague of the early war U-boats.
What do you reckon?
On board the Royal Oak, the impact is dismissed. The crew, roused from sleep, believes something internal has exploded, perhaps a CO2 bottle or paint locker. There is no general alarm. No searchlights sweep the water. The giant battleship rolls slightly, then settles. She goes back to sleep. Prien is furious, but he is not finished. A lesser commander would dive and run, thankful to have poked the bear and survived. Prien orders the boat to come about. He fires his stern tube. It misses. Now, the ultimate gamble. He orders the bow tubes reloaded. For 20 agonizing minutes, U-47 circles in the harbor like a shark in a wading pool. They are visible to anyone on shore who bothers to look. The crew works in a fever state. If a destroyer comes around the headland now, they are dead. If a shore battery opens fire, they are dead. 0122 hours. The tubes are ready. Prien closes the range.
1,500 yards. He can practically see the portholes.
Fire!
3 more torpedoes streak through the black water.
This time, there is no mistake. 30 seconds later, the night is ripped apart. The midship of the Royal Oak disintegrates. The torpedoes strike the magazine. A column of flame shoots into the sky, illuminating the harbor with the brightness of noon. The sound is not a thud, but a world-ending crack. Inside the battleship, the lights fail instantly. The ship lists violently to starboard. Men are thrown from their bunks into walls of steel. The sea rushes in, not as a leak, but as a crushing wall of water. The air fills with the screams of trapped men and the roar of escaping steam. In 13 minutes, the pride of the Royal Navy rolls over and vanishes beneath the surface, taking 833 sailors with her. On the bridge of U-47, there is no cheering, only the stark realization of the hornet's nest they have just kicked. All ahead, flank! The harbor wakes up. Searchlights stab into the darkness. Car headlights appear on the shore roads. Destroyers, previously silent, begin to churn the water, their turbines winding up to hunt. Prien turns the boat back toward Kirk Sound, but the ocean has one last trap. The tide is turned. The water that had helped carry them in is now rushing against them. The current through the narrow channel is ferocious. U-47 pushes her diesel engines to the red line, the pistons hammering, the hull vibrating violently. They are barely making headway over the ground. It is a slow-motion escape. To their left, the blockship. To their right, the rocks. Behind them, the mounting fury of the Royal Navy. Every minute spent fighting the current is a minute for a British destroyer to find their wake. Prien navigates by eyesight and instinct, steering the boat through the swirling eddies. He passes the blockship Soriano with meters to spare. The water boils around the rudder. And then, the chop returns.
The heavy roll of the open sea. They are out. Prien orders a course for Germany. Behind them, Scapa Flow burns. The bull has gored the lion in its own den, and the war at sea has changed forever.
Victory in submarine warfare is rarely a product of luck. It is a product of calculation. U-47's success was built on two pillars: a catastrophic failure of British defensive doctrine and a high-stakes gamble on hydrodynamics. The British Admiralty relied on the violence of nature to do their work for them. They believed the tidal currents in Kirk Sound, which could rip through at 10 knots, made the channel unnavigable for a submerged vessel. But they underestimated the surface capability of the Type 7 U-boat. Prien didn't dive. He rode the surface slack water, a brief window where the tide turned. The intel provided by Luftwaffe aerial reconnaissance spotted what the British missed. The blockships were not overlapping. There was a 17-meter gap between the sunken Soriano and the Thames. A tight squeeze, but mathematically possible for a 6-meter wide U-boat. However, the raid also exposed a critical weakness in German technology: the torpedo crise, or torpedo crisis.
Prien fired 7 torpedoes. Only 3 detonated effectively. Why?
The standard German G7E torpedo used a magnetic pistol trigger. The concept was brilliant. The torpedo doesn't need to hit the ship's side armor. Instead, it detects the magnetic field of the steel hull, detonating beneath the keel. The resulting gas bubble breaks the ship's back, the most lethal way to kill a vessel. But the magnetic pistols were flawed. In the high northern latitudes of Scapa Flow, the Earth's magnetic variations wreaked havoc on the delicate sensors. Furthermore, the depth-keeping mechanisms were notoriously unreliable. The first volley likely ran too deep, or the pistols failed to trigger. The destruction of the Royal Oak occurred because the final salvo struck the magazine directly. This wasn't just a hull breach. It was a catastrophic structural failure. The torpedoes didn't just let water in. They ignited the cordite charges for the 15-inch guns.
The blast wave didn't just expand outward. It expanded inward, tearing through bulkheads and turning the ship's interior into a superheated pressure cooker. Against a stationary target with 0 watertight integrity readiness, condition Z, the battleship never stood a chance.
Günther Prien returned to Germany a hero. He was the first U-boat commander to receive the Knight's Cross, personally awarded by Hitler. The bull of Scapa Flow was painted on U-47's conning tower, a snorting bull, a symbol of defiance that would become legendary. But the true legacy of Scapa Flow was fear. The raid shattered the illusion of safety. If the Royal Navy was not safe in its own home, it was safe nowhere. Churchill was forced to disperse the fleet, weakening the blockade and giving the Kriegsmarine breathing room to strike the Atlantic convoys. Yet the sea always claims its due. 2 years later, Prien and U-47 would vanish in the North Atlantic. No wreckage, no bodies, no distress call. Just silence. The Royal Oak remains on the bottom of Scapa Flow today, a designated war grave. Oil still leaks from her rusted tanks, the bleeding of an old wound that never truly healed. A grim reminder that in the deep war, glory is fleeting, but the iron coffins remain forever.